First contact shock. Grand Admiral Zextal stood motionless before the Galactic Council's primary observation window, his forearms clasped behind his back in the traditional pose of contemplation. The massive transparent barrier, spanning nearly 100 meters in height, offered an unobstructed view of the Centauris Gate, the most heavily defended strategic point in Council space. For 3 millennia, the Galactic Council had maintained order across 17,000 star systems. Their technological superiority was unquestioned, their military might unchallenged. Until today. Admiral. First Sensor Officer Rylith's voice quivered slightly, her crystalline form pulsing with nervous energy. The anomaly has reappeared. It's impossible. Zextal turned slowly, his scaled face betraying no emotion. Explain. The massive holographic display at the center of the command center sprang to life, showing a tear in spacetime, unlike anything in Council records. Instead of the violent, chaotic emergence typical of faster-than-light travel, this rupture was perfectly symmetrical, its edges glowing with a soft blue light. The energy readings are off our scales, Admiral. Whatever's coming through is using technology we've never encountered. The spatial distortion is controlled, engineered. The Council chamber erupted in murmurs as a ship emerged from the rift. It was relatively small by Council standards, perhaps only a kilometer in length, but its design defied all known principles of shipbuilding. Instead of the crystalline structures favored by the Council races, this vessel appeared to be made of impossibly smooth metal, its hull decorated with strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. "Scan it," Zextal ordered, all 4 hands now gripping the command rail. "Sir, our scans, they're being reflected." "No, not reflected. They're being absorbed and analyzed. The ship is studying our scanning technology as we use it." The Council chamber fell silent as a communication request appeared on their screens. The message was transmitted in perfect Council standard, yet no known race could have decoded their language so quickly. "Greetings, Galactic Council. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth ship Prometheus. We come in peace and request diplomatic contact." High Counselor Verax, the eldest of the ruling body, stepped forward. "How do they know our language? How did they breach our strongest defensive line without triggering a single alarm?" Before anyone could respond, the mysterious ship transmitted again. "We apologize for any alarm our arrival may have caused. Humanity has been observing Council space for some time, evaluating the right moment to make contact. We believe that moment is now." Zextal's military training screamed at him to launch an immediate attack. Any unknown vessel that could penetrate their defenses so easily represented an existential threat. Yet something held him back. Curiosity, perhaps, or an instinct honed by centuries of service. "Sir," Rylith's voice was barely a whisper now. "I'm detecting energy signatures throughout their hull. They're not weapons, exactly, but the power output. Admiral, a single section of their hull is producing more energy than our entire defense fleet." The Council chamber erupted in chaos. Some members demanded immediate military action, others called for retreat, and a few brave souls suggested peaceful contact. Through it all, the human ship remained perfectly stationary, its strange geometric patterns continuing their hypnotic dance across its hull. "We are detecting your internal debate." Captain Chen's voice came through again, somehow both friendly and carrying an undertone of steel. "Perhaps a demonstration of our peaceful intentions would help. With your permission, we will now repair the structural damage to your Centauris Gate caused by 3 centuries of micrometeorite impacts." Before anyone could respond, beams of soft golden light emanated from the Prometheus, enveloping the massive space station. In seconds, decades of wear simply vanished, leaving the station gleaming as if newly constructed. "How?" High Counselor Verax stepped closer to the window, his ancient eyes wide with wonder. "How did they know about the internal deterioration? Our own engineers only discovered it last cycle." "We have been watching," Captain Chen replied, answering the question though it hadn't been directed at her. Learning. Understanding. Humanity believes in being thorough before making first contact. We have much to share, if you're willing to listen. Zextal felt the weight of history pressing down on him. In all his years of service, he had never faced a situation like this. These humans, with their impossible technology and casual display of power, had just changed everything. High Council, he spoke finally, his voice steady despite the tension. I believe we have no choice but to hear them out. They could have attacked at any time. Instead, they chose to announce themselves and offer peace. As the council members debated their response, Zextal couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy would never be the same after today. Humanity had arrived, and they had done so with a quiet confidence that suggested they held powers beyond anything the council had ever imagined. The age of unchallenged council supremacy was over. The question now was, what would take its place? The human factor. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth as she watched the council members argue through the ship's quantum imaging system. Her bridge crew maintained their professional composure, but she could sense their amusement at the aliens' panic. They're still scanning us, Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez reported from his sensor station, fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Getting creative now, trying to use neutrino pulses to penetrate our metamaterial hull. Let them, Sarah replied, settling into her command chair. Knowledge sharing goes both ways. How's their translation matrix handling our language packet? Surprisingly well, Captain. Communications Officer Dr. Aisha Patel responded. Their AI systems are more advanced than we expected, even if their physical technology lags behind. They've already processed 82% of Earth Standard English. Sarah nodded, remembering the decades of preparation that had led to this moment. Humanity had discovered faster-than-light travel differently than most species, not through crystal technology or quantum manipulation, but by learning to fold space itself. This discovery had led them to realize they weren't alone in the galaxy, and more importantly, that they had a significant technological advantage in certain areas. Captain, her XO, Commander James Wu, spoke quietly beside her. The Artemis reports they're in position. If this goes south, they can have the entire council fleet contained in 4 minutes. It won't come to that, Sarah replied, though she appreciated the backup. The Artemis, cloaked and undetectable to council technology, represented humanity's insurance policy. They're scared, but they're not stupid. Look at their admiral, Zextal. He's already figured out we could have attacked at any time. On the main viewer, the council chamber continued its heated debate. Sarah had studied these species for years, learning their body language and cultural cues. The crystalline Rylith were logical to a fault, but prone to anxiety. The scaled Zentari, like Admiral Zextal, were natural warriors with a strong sense of honor. Understanding these details had been crucial to planning first contact. Incoming transmission, Aisha announced. They've reached a decision. The elegant face of High Counselor Virax appeared on the main screen. Despite his obvious tension, he maintained the formal dignity of his position. Captain Chin, the Council has agreed to diplomatic talks. However, we have concerns about your previous observation of our space. Sarah leaned forward, her expression open and diplomatic. Of course you do, Counselor. We would be concerned too. That's why we're prepared to share our full observation records, including our reasons for waiting to make contact. This clearly caught the Council off guard. Such transparency was rare in galactic politics. You would share your intelligence data, Virax asked, unable to hide his surprise. We believe in starting relationships honestly, Sarah replied. Humanity has been capable of interstellar travel for 73 of your cycles. We spent that time learning, understanding, and most importantly, deciding how to approach the galactic community in a way that would benefit everyone. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the council chamber, showing the history of human space exploration. We could have announced ourselves immediately upon achieving FTL capability. Instead, we chose to study and understand. We watched how the Council handled disputes, how it managed technological differences between species, how it maintained peace. And what did you conclude? Admiral Zextal asked, stepping forward. That the Council does an admirable job maintaining order, but that it's become stagnant. Your technological development has plateaued. Your species are divided into rigid hierarchies based on when they achieved spaceflight, and there are threats coming that your current approach can't handle. The chamber erupted again, but Sarah continued calmly. 3 months ago, our deep space sensors detected something approaching from intergalactic space, something that has wiped out galaxies before. The Council's current technology cannot detect it yet, but it will reach your space within 5 years. She let that sink in before continuing. We chose this moment to reveal ourselves because humanity has faced extinction before. We know what it takes to survive impossible odds. And we believe that by combining our different approaches to technology and civilization, we can face this threat together. Commander Wu handed her a data crystal, old technology by human standards, but one the Council could understand. This contains everything we know about the approaching threat, along with a proposal for technological and cultural exchange. We're not here to conquer or dominate. We're here because together, we're stronger than we are apart. The chamber had fallen silent, the Council members processing this information. Sarah could see the moment when understanding dawned in their eyes. Humanity hadn't revealed itself from a position of weakness or fear, but from a carefully considered position of strength tempered by wisdom. You said you faced extinction before, Admiral Zextal said slowly. What did you mean? Sarah's expression grew serious. That's a story for our next meeting, Admiral. But I'll say this, there's a reason humans approach technology differently than any species you've encountered. There's a reason we learned to fold space instead of piercing it. We had to. We had no choice. She stood, her uniform catching the light. The question now is, will you work with us? As equals, despite our younger status, or will pride and tradition prevent us from saving trillions of lives? The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. Humanity had placed its cards on the table. Not all of them, but enough to show their hand was strong. Now they would see if the Council could adapt to a universe where they were no longer the unchallenged leaders of known space. The future of two civilizations hung in the balance, and Sarah Chen knew she had just changed the course of galactic history forever. Power play. War Admiral Kvorth of the Zentari Defense Fleet had not survived 3 centuries of military service by being cautious. While the Council debated humanity's warnings and offers, he prepared for war. 20 battle fleets, the largest armada assembled in Council history, moved silently through subspace toward the Prometheus's position. The humans are fools, he growled to his command staff. They revealed their only ship's position. No matter their technology, they cannot withstand the combined might of our forces. His second, Commander Ixtil, seemed less certain. Sir, their power readings suggest. Power readings can be falsified, Kvorth interrupted. They showed us what they wanted us to see. Now we'll show them real power. On the Prometheus, Sarah Chen watched the approaching fleets with an expression of resignation. They'd really want to do this the hard way, don't they? Battle fleets emerging from subspace in 30 seconds, Rodriguez reported. 20? No, 23 capital ships detected. Over 300 support vessels. They're forming an enclosure pattern. Sarah sighed. Aisha, please contact Admiral Zextal. Let's try one last time to prevent unnecessary demonstrations. But before the communication could be established, War Admiral Kvorth's face appeared on their screen. Unknown vessel, you have entered Council space illegally and presented false claims about non-existent threats. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Admiral Kvorth, I presume. I should inform you that your attack violates 3 separate Council laws, including the primary contact protocol's off. Silence. Kvorth roared. You dare lecture us on our laws? Open fire. The space around the Prometheus erupted with energy as thousands of weapons discharged simultaneously. Plasma torpedoes, quantum disruptors, and antimatter missiles converged on the human vessel from every direction. The combined firepower could have destroyed a small moon. On the Council observation deck, Admiral Zextal watched in horror. "You fool, Kvorth," he whispered. "You've doomed us all." But as the weapons reached the Prometheus, something unexpected happened. Rather than impacting or being deflected, they simply ceased to exist. A sphere of absolute darkness, about 2 kilometers in diameter, had appeared around the human ship, swallowing every attack without trace or effect. Fascinating approach. Sarah's voice came through clearly on all channels, sounding more interested than concerned. "Commander Wu, are you recording their weapon signatures for analysis?" "All logged, Captain. Their antimatter containment is particularly elegant, even if the delivery system is inefficient." Kvorth's voice shook with rage. "What trickery is this? All ships, concentrate fire on." "I think that's enough," Sarah interrupted, her voice now carrying an edge of steel. "Commander Wu, if you would." "Gladly, Captain." Across the vast battle fleet, every weapon system simultaneously powered down. Shield generators fell silent. Engines went dark. Even backup power systems ceased functioning. 324 warships, the pride of the Council fleet, hung powerless in space. "Don't worry," Sarah announced to the panicking crews. "We've only temporarily suppressed your energy systems. No permanent damage has been done. Consider this a practical demonstration of why starting a war with humanity would be unwise." On the Prometheus's bridge, Rodriguez spoke up. "Captain, the Artemis reports that the Council's backup fleet is attempting to power up in the Centaurus sector." "Have them stand down too," Sarah ordered, gently. Across Council space, every military vessel suddenly found itself without power. The message was clear. Humanity could have disabled their entire civilization at any time, but had chosen diplomacy instead. "Now then," Sarah continued, addressing all channels. "War Admiral Kvorth, you're hereby relieved of command by order of the Council Emergency Protocols, Section 7, Paragraph 12. The clause regarding actions that threaten galactic stability. Admiral Zextal, I believe you have the authority to appoint his replacement." Zextal, watching from the Council chamber, straightened his uniform. "I do indeed, Captain Chen. And may I offer my sincere apologies for this unfortunate incident." "No apologies necessary, Admiral. We expected something like this might happen. It's why we chose to reveal ourselves gradually rather than appearing with our full fleet." The chamber went silent. "Full fleet?" High Counselor Verax asked carefully. "Oh yes," Sarah replied casually. "The Prometheus is a diplomatic vessel. Did you think we'd send a warship for first contact? That would have been terribly rude." As if to emphasize her point, space rippled briefly near the Prometheus, and another human ship briefly dropped its cloaking field. The Artemis was 3 times the size of the Prometheus, its hull covered in patterns that seemed to bend light itself around them. It vanished again almost immediately, but its message was clear. Humanity had depths yet unrevealed. "Now then," Sarah continued, her voice returning to its earlier diplomatic tone, "shall we return to our discussion about the intergalactic threat? I believe we were about to share the full sensor data regarding its approach vector." Across Council space, warship crews were discovering their power returning, along with a new message displayed on every screen. "Peace through strength, wisdom through restraint. We await your response." The age of unchallenged Council military supremacy had ended not with a bang, but with a demonstration of power so complete it rendered violence obsolete. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, ancient eyes watched humanity's emergence with growing interest and growing hunger. The real test was yet to come. Breaking point. The emergency alert came 3 months earlier than humanity's predictions. Deep in Council space, At a research station orbiting the neutron star NK 542, something impossible appeared. Multiple spatial ruptures detected. The station's AI blared across all frequencies, unknown entities emerging. The transmission cut off in a burst of static. In the council chamber, now equipped with human quantum communication systems, Sarah Chen's hologram appeared beside Admiral Zextal. They had spent the last 3 months building trust, sharing technology, and preparing for this moment. Now it had arrived too soon. "They're testing our defenses," Sarah said, her expression grim. The station was isolated, perfect for a probe attack. "Admiral, are your forces ready?" Zextal nodded, his scaled face set with determination. "All fleets are equipped with the hybrid defense systems your engineers helped develop." "But, Captain, the station had a crew of 3,000. "I know." Sarah's voice carried the weight of command. "And we'll make their sacrifice mean something. All human vessels, execute Protocol Omega. Authorization, Chen Alpha 7. Space rippled around NK 542 as dozens of human ships dropped their cloaking fields. The Artemis led the battle group, its massive form now bristling with weapons that defied Council understanding. The Prometheus had been impressive. The Artemis was terrifying. But what emerged from the spatial ruptures was worse. By the first stars, Zextal whispered as the sensor data reached them. The entities weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were living darkness, wombs in reality itself, each one larger than a capital ship. Where they passed, space itself seemed to decay. Void Hunters, Sarah named them. They don't just destroy civilizations, they consume the very physics of space-time. This is how they've ended galaxies before. They create dead zones where our laws of physics no longer function. The council chamber erupted in panic as more sensor data arrived. The research station hadn't been destroyed. It had been transformed. Its crystalline structures now pulsed with impossible geometries, its metal components twisted into shapes that hurt to look at. "This is just the advance force," Sarah continued, her voice cutting through the chaos. "A test of our defenses. The main swarm is still coming. Admiral, your forces need to hold the perimeter. Do not, under any circumstances, let them touch your ships." The combined human council fleet moved into position. Council ships, their traditional weapons now augmented with human technology, formed a defensive line while human vessels took up attack positions. "Remember your training," Sarah broadcast to all ships. "Their physics warping field extends approximately 2,000 kilometers from their forms. Standard weapons are useless inside that range. Switch to quantum-locked ammunition and temporal disruption beams only." The Void Hunters moved with terrible grace, their non-Euclidean forms rippling through space. The first attack came without warning. A tendril of pure darkness stretching across thousands of kilometers in an instant. But humanity had fought these things before. The Artemis's primary weapon activated, firing not energy or matter, but something the Council had no word for. It looked like a beam of pure mathematics, a concentrated stream of universal constants that cut through the Void Hunter's reality warping field. "All ships, concentrate fire on the breach points," Sarah ordered. "Don't let them establish a foothold in normal space." The battle that followed defied conventional description. Council gunners, trained to think in terms of energy and matter, watched in awe as human weapons manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. The Void Hunters' advantage, their ability to alter physics, became their weakness as humanity turned the very rules of space-time against them. But they were learning, adapting. Each attack came closer to breaking through, each violation of reality more profound than the last. "Captain Chen," Rodriguez's voice cut through the tactical channel. "They're changing their pattern. They're linking together." The Void Hunters merged, their separate forms flowing into a single entity that dwarfed the entire fleet. Space began to crack around it, actual fissures in reality spreading like a spiderweb across the battlefield. "This is new," Sarah admitted, her calm voice belying the gravity of the situation. They've never shown this capability before. All ships fall back to secondary positions. Admiral Zextel, order your forces tow. She never finished the sentence. The merged entity pulsed once, and a wave of unreality washed over the fleet. Council ships closest to the wave simply ceased to exist, their matter and energy converted into something that couldn't exist in our universe. No choice now, Sarah said quietly. Commander Wu, authorize Protocol Eclipse. Captain, Wu's voice was hesitant. That's untested technology. The power requirements alone could tear the Artemis apart. Better us than the entire galaxy. Sarah's hologram turned to Zextal. Admiral, get your forces out of here. What we're about to do, it won't discriminate between friend and foe within its range. Zextal studied her face, seeing something there that made him straighten to attention. It's been an honor, Captain Chen. As the Council fleet retreated, the Artemis moved forward, its hull beginning to glow with an inner light that seemed to bend reality around it. Humanity's last resort was about to be unveiled, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Void Hunters were about to learn why humanity had survived their first encounter, and why challenging Earth was always a fatal mistake. New dawn. The Artemis hung suspended before the merged Void Hunter, its hull now pulsing with a light that seemed to exist in dimensions beyond normal space. Inside the massive ship, Captain Chen stood at the primary control interface, her hand steady as she initiated humanity's final protocol. Protocol Eclipse engaging, the ship's AI announced. Warning. Dimensional stabilization field failing. Reality anchor points destabilizing. Maintain course, Sarah ordered, even as the deck beneath her feet began to vibrate with impossible frequencies. Target locked on Void Entity Mass Center. Mr. Rodriguez, status of the quantum core. Critical mass achieved, Captain. But the readings don't make sense anymore. I'm seeing numbers that can't exist. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. That's the point, Lieutenant. We're about to break mathematics itself. She opened a channel to the retreating Council fleet. Admiral Zextal, I hope you're at a safe distance. What you're about to see, well, try not to let it change too many of your fundamental beliefs about reality. The Void Hunters seemed to sense what was coming. Their merged form began to pulse with anti-light, reaching out with tendrils of unreality toward the Artemis. But they were too late. Protocol Eclipse activated, Sarah announced calmly. May whatever gods exist forgive us for what we're about to do to their universe. The Artemis's quantum core didn't explode. It imploded, collapsing inward with such force that it created something new. A controlled violation of cause and effect. Time itself bent around the ship, not in the crude way of traditional time travel, but in a way that turned temporal mechanics into a weapon. The Void Hunters existed by breaking the laws of physics. Humanity had learned to break the laws of time. From the Council fleet's perspective, what happened next was impossible to comprehend. The Artemis seemed to exist at all points in space simultaneously, each version of the ship firing weapons that didn't so much destroy the Void Hunters as retroactively prevent them from ever having existed. By all the ancestors, High Counselor Virax whispered, watching from the Council chamber. What have they done? The answer came from Dr. Patel, her voice steady despite the strain evident in it. We didn't just develop new weapons to fight them, Counselor. We developed new laws of physics, laws that make their existence impossible. The Void Hunters' merged form began to unravel, not from damage, but from logical paradox. Their very nature, the ability to break physics, was being turned against them by a species that had learned to break reality in a more fundamental way. But the cost was becoming clear. The Artemis's hull was starting to fragment, pieces of it existing in multiple timelines simultaneously. Captain, Commander Wu's voice was tight with concern. The ship can't take much more. The temporal stress is almost done. Sarah interrupted, her hands flying over controls that seemed to shift between different possibilities with each movement. Just need to seal the breach they created. Can't leave an open wound in space-time. The Void Hunters made one final attempt to assert their version of reality. The space around the battle zone began to crystallize with impossible geometries, light itself starting to forget how to travel in straight lines. Sarah Chen looked up at the twisting reality around her ship and spoke her final command. Execute terminal override. Authorization. Earth stands. The Artemis quantum core inverted completely, creating a moment that existed outside of time itself. In that eternal instant, humanity's mathematics rewrote the local laws of physics, not just destroying the Void Hunters, but making it impossible for their type of existence to manifest in this galaxy ever again. When reality reasserted itself, the Void Hunters were gone. Not destroyed. They had never been there at all. The only proof they had ever existed was in the memories of those who had witnessed the battle, and in the changed nature of space around NK 542. The Artemis hung motionless, its hull scored with temporal fractures, sections of it seemingly phased between different possible realities. But it had survived. Status report, Sarah called out, pulling herself up from where the final temporal shock had thrown her. Hull integrity at 12%, Captain, Rodriguez reported, his voice filled with wonder. But we're alive. We actually survived. In the council chamber, silence reigned as the implications of what they had witnessed sank in. Humanity hadn't just defeated an enemy the council hadn't even known existed. They had changed the fundamental nature of reality to do it. Captain Chen. Admiral Zextel's voice carried across the quantum comm, heavy with emotion. The council, we owe you more than we can ever repay. Sarah's response was interrupted by Dr. Patel. Captain, I'm detecting quantum signatures. The space around NK 542. It's different now. The laws of physics they're enhanced. Sarah finished for her. Yes, that was part of the plan. We didn't just remove the threat. We upgraded your galaxy's operating system, so to speak. The council races will find their crystal technology works better now. Your quantum drives will be more efficient. We didn't just save you. We gave you the tools to grow beyond what you were. The silence that followed was profound. Finally, High Counselor Virax spoke. Why? Why share such power with us? Sarah's response was simple. Because that's what humans do. We don't just survive. We help others survive too. We don't just overcome. We teach others to overcome. And now we do it together. 3 months later, the Galactic Council chamber was different. The traditional hierarchical seating had been replaced by a circular arrangement, with Earth's representatives seated as equals despite their youth as a spacefaring species. The Void Hunters had changed everything, not through their attack, but through humanity's response to it. To face the future, Sarah Chen said, standing before the assembled races, we need to understand that power isn't about destruction. It's about creation. Humanity didn't become strong by learning to break things. We became strong by learning to fix them, even if that meant fixing reality itself. She gestured to the window, where the Artemis hung in orbit, its temporal scars now a testament to sacrifice and determination. We offered you partnership not because we needed it, but because we wanted it. The galaxy is entering a new age, not of council rule or human dominance, but of true cooperation. Together, we will rebuild. Together, we will grow. And together, we will face whatever comes next. The assembly hall erupted in applause, a human gesture that the council races had quickly adopted. As Sarah looked out over the gathered representatives of 17,000 worlds, she smiled. The Void Hunters had meant to end civilization. Instead, they had helped birth something new. A galaxy united not by force or fear, but by the very human traits of innovation, determination, and hope. The age of separation was over. The age of humanity had begun.